Hi.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Eddie, lovely to see you too. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Which is?
I think
this
that's
is mine.
you
Okay.
there, yeah.
We're rolling.
You did a very remarkable job on this movie. I was really flashed because you did it so well, and it looks also like if I imagine Stephen Hawking as a young person, it looks like if I'm looking at you. So how long does it take to get all this preparation for this role?
Thank you. Firstly, that's very kind. It took a while, but and often on film you don't have that time. And the great gift of this film for me was that from when I got cast, I had 4 months to prepare, and that's kind of unheard of. So I spent those months going to an ALS clinic in London, meeting people who suffer from this really brutal disease and their families, learning about the sort of emotional ramifications, but also learning about Stephen and and Jane and their family, meeting them, and it was one of the most remarkable experiences for me.
Did you have the chance to meet Stephen Hawking?
I did. Yeah, I met him. Unfortunately, he's a very busy man. He's solving some quite hardcore problems out there in the universe, so he's got a lot on his mind. So I could only meet him just before we started filming, and it was complicated because by that point I'd done 4 months of work, and we were about to start filming. And what if you realise that all the work you've done is wrong? So I was a bit intimidated meeting him. But he was amazing. I mean, I made there's a very sort of specific and quite unique rhythm when you're talking to him because there are long pauses. And I started off by making a fool of myself and sort of filling those pauses with nonsense, but now that once I calmed down, he was very funny and very generous to me. So.
But what did you think of him? Because he has made so many things to find out about the universe.
Yeah.
And, I think this is extraordinary because maybe he should take more time for himself to get in a better constitution. But he's working.
Yeah. Well, he's a passionate man. He absolutely loves what he does. He loves asking those questions, and I think that it's simply I love what I do, and I'm very lucky to do it. And of course, it's that weird thing where work and your life become sort of melded in some ways. But no, he was formidable and funny, so funny, like a very witty, very this razor wit. He was a brilliant man to spend time with.
Do you know if he has maybe seen the finished movie and
he
what
has,
is his reaction?
He has. I was so nervous. I saw him just before he went into the screening, and I said, Stephen, I'm very nervous, but let me know what you think. And he took a few minutes to type out what he was going to say, and then he said, I will let you know what I think, good or otherwise. And I said, okay, thanks, Stephen. If it's otherwise, maybe we can just stick to otherwise. We don't need all the minutiae of all the things I got wrong, but he's been so lovely about the film, and the other amazing thing was when we shot the film, he owns the copyright to his voice, the famous voice, and when we shot the film, we had used a sort of synthesized approximation of that voice, and after seeing the film, he gave us his voice, and for me that was the most wonderful thing. So.
And going back to the time of shooting, because films would be shot chronologically.
Yeah.
So how did you get in all this parts of this disease? Because if you have maybe doing one scene which is much before, and then on the same day another scene where you are in this total ALS thing. So how difficult was it, and how did you manage all that?
Well, I took as many photos as I could of Stephen when he was younger to the ALS specialist, who would then help me work out what his specific physical decline would have been, and I basically mapped out on a chart all the muscles in his body and when they stopped working and whether they had what's called upper neuron or lower neuron, so whether they had gone rigid or whether there was a sort of softness. And I would then have all those in a chart, and I would spend those months beforehand getting familiar with those different states of physicality, so that when we were shooting we could jump in and out of the physicalities. And also what was important is this is not a film about the disease. It couldn't be, for Stephen, the disease couldn't be less important. He's someone that lives fully and passionately, and and similarly, the story is a love story. It's a human story. So I wanted to make sure all the physical work had been done first, so that when it came to playing with Felicity, we could just be playing the human story.
But did you maybe think about ALS before you get the offer for this role?
I knew so little about ALS beforehand. I had been working with a gentleman who worked with a physio who worked with ALS patients as well, who had taught me a little bit, but God, it was an education. This disease has been around for a long, long time, and they're still struggling to get any closer to finding a cure or a reason. So I hope that the film will help bring awareness to what a hideous disease it is, and maybe encourage people to help try and solve it.
Because this year it gets very popular because of the ALS Ice Bucket challenge. I also had to do it because I was charged.
Yeah.
Did you also had to do it?
I did indeed. Yeah, I was. Someone chose me in London, and I did it with an old pal of mine, and it was very cold. but for me, it's one. You know, some people have been cynical, going, "Oh yeah, it's just sort of celebrities jumping on the." But frankly, this, you know, as I said, it's such a brutal disease. Just any awareness. And it has raised a lot of money. Is a wonderful thing.
What comes next? Do you have maybe some new projects that are coming up?
I'm just starting, like, tiptoeing into preparing for a new film directed by by Tom Hooper, who directed Les Miserables, which I did before, and it's called The Danish Girl. And so I start shooting that in the end of January.
Is it still also filmed in Germany? Will it be take part here?
To take part? No, not that I'm aware of, unfortunately. No, I think we're shooting in London and Copenhagen and Paris and maybe Belgium, I think. But I don't think, unfortunately, I have shot here in the past and I love shooting here. But
because I know the project, because years before they wanted to do it in Germany, in Cologne, the area where I live.
Oh, really?
With Nicole Kidman and some other guy.
Yeah.
And then nobody heard anything about this
Anything
project.
about
and now it came up again.
Well, it was interesting because it's... yeah, I think it's a true story and an extraordinary story, and they've been trying to make it into a film for a long time, and hopefully, touch wood, it will finally happen. But maybe I think they were thinking different locations then.
Christmas is just 4 weeks far away, so if it's okay for you, would you tell us, how do you spend Christmas this year?
How do I spend Christmas? I normally spend Christmas with my family. I'm like a really bad cook, but I quite like cooking ham. Like, I get really festive around Christmas, and I basically make a ham like slathered in sugar and and mustard. And what do? We tend to go to like midnight mass the night before, sing some carols. I love Christmas. When I was a kid, I used to get so excited that I wouldn't sleep for the entire night, and then I'd end up like falling asleep at like 10 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, and then waking up on Christmas Eve, on the following Boxing Day. So it was always a bit depressing, but I love Christmas.
Do you still remember one big Christmas surprise? Maybe the surprise that you have get from your parents as a child, that you do for another person?
Yeah, what was my big Christmas surprise? I remember once, I was really into magic when I was a kid. And I'd asked for Christmas for like some little cups that, you know, like do things with these little balls that you sort of make disappear and stuff. And so I was hoping that was going to happen. And then I sort of, this big present was bought from behind the sofa, and it was a gigantic magic set. And it was, I think, probably the happiest I've ever been. I was about 8.